Hey, what's happening everybody? Welcome back to Anime Casuals. I'm Lucky and today we're talking about Naruto and my favorite villain out of that series, Pain, and why I think he's the most important villain that Naruto's ever faced. There will be massive spoilers here if you have no idea about Pain and you don't know Toby's identity as well. So keep that in mind as we go along. Also, I will be omitting things from Boruto because Boruto sucks. Anyways, let's look at my criteria for a great villain. 1. Offers a significant physical threat to not only the main character, but also those around them. 2. Offers a moral dilemma for the main character that makes him either throw away his old ideals or strengthen their old ideals with better logic. 3. Plays a big role in the grander story. 4. Is not a one-dimensional quote-unquote evil person and is relatable. And 5. Their motivations are believable and, in the context of their character, seem justified. So I'm sure there are more criteria, but I just boiled it down to these. Anyway, let's start off with number 1. Does Pain offer a significant physical threat to not only the main character, Naruto, but also to those around him? Let's watch, shall we?
Shinra Tensei.
Yep, he definitely meets the criteria. Even though Naruto gets stronger than this by the end of the series, at this point in time, Pain offers the biggest threat that Naruto has ever faced to date. And if you had already gotten to this point, Pain has already killed Jiraiya and many other Leaf Ninja. Now I will say this, what made him a bit weak in this department is that the creators ended up taking everything back, since Pain ended up using his own life to bring back people he killed in the village, but Jiraiya was still a casualty of this, and this has a tremendous impact on Naruto going forward. It's also the first time we had been introduced to the Rinnegan, and the build-up was really well done for this. Alright, now to number 2. Does Pain offer a moral dilemma for Naruto that makes him either throw away his old ideals or strengthen his ideals with better logic? I would say yes. When Pain brings up his village and what happened when Konoha Shinobi and other big nations destroyed his land, it's one of the first times that Naruto faces someone that is actually seeking justice for what has been done to them. From this point on in the series, Naruto, instead of just saying, "I'm going to save my friend," starts to realize he has to focus on what can save his friend in the ninja world, breaking the cycle of hatred, which is what he got from Pain. This shift in Naruto's goals makes his objectives more clear to us, the audience, as well as to him as he goes forward. Now let's go to number 3. Does Pain play a big role in the grander story? And I would say yes, he does, but I think it's more of the ideals that Naruto got from Pain rather than Pain himself being a big part of the story. However, the fact that he has Madara's Rinnegan, the fact that Nagato is actually an Uzumaki, and that without him it would have been very hard for Obito to start the Akatsuki and still do everything from behind the scenes. In other words, Obito needed a figurehead for the Akatsuki, and that role was filled by Nagato / Pain, cements his place in the grander story. Now on to number 4. Can we say that Pain is not a one-dimensional evil person and is relatable? Yes, even though you might disagree with the methods that Pain used to enact his quote-unquote justice, I would like to see any of you lose your parents in front of you, realize that the people you trusted the most were working with an enemy nation, and the fact that your best friend sacrificed himself by throwing himself on the blade of the kunai that you were holding, all so you could have a future, and then still have a Naruto type outlook on life. It simply doesn't happen, and you can actually draw some parallels to Sasuke in that regard. Now let's get on to the last criteria, number 5. Their motivations are believable in the context of the character and seem justified. Once you add all that context that I had mentioned before with Pain's motives, you start to see that he's only human despite the fact that he's claiming to be a god. When I first heard Pain's reasonings for doing what he did, I started actually thinking of why I do terrible things to people who make me angry. It sparked an internal dialogue within myself, and whenever someone treats me badly in real life, I begin to think of ways that I can get back at them. However, when I started thinking of Pain's idea of the cycle of hatred, I realized that if I simply indulge my anger, it would never lead to understanding. We would just be back where we started. And I think that is another criteria that I didn't really put on this list, but I'm gonna give an honorable mention to it anyway, is the idea of a villain changing the way you think. In a way, Pain's motivations really show the flaw of many of us humans that think we can simply fix society by beating it into submission with fear and power. It seems justifiable to give people the same pain because it is something that they can bond over. You might think, well, that's kind of weird, but think about it. When soldiers go into combat and hopefully come back, that is a bond that is like no other, because they went through the worst conditions together and realized that they had this bond of pain together. Say you go to a funeral. What is the bond that brings all of you guys together? It is the pain of losing that person that you guys are all there to mourn for. It's not as crazy as you might think. However, the implementation is a different matter. Pain was a noticeable turning point in the series, and one that ended up signifying new character development in Naruto and others in the series, since Pain attacked all of Konoha. Without him, the series just would not be the same, and that, along with all the criteria criteria that I listed before is why I believe he was the best villain in all of Naruto. If you guys agree or disagree, let us know in the comments down below. This is only an opinion, not a fact. But as always, guys, don't forget to keep it casual.